So this is the Vikings, Falcons, and apparently Skinny Penis.
What a time to hit broadcast.
What an interesting way to start
I
that.
hit play in time, but a little treat from the pre-pod conversation. But anyways, good to be talking to you guys again. Hope everyone had a great Christmas and holiday season, New Year's, whatever you celebrate. First off, congratulations to our back-to-back Super Bowl champion Falcons. Brett, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on winning once again. I take a little bit of pride in your victory because I helped set you up, but
Couldn't have done it without you.
What it is.
Literally couldn't have done it without you. Kingmaker.
Sometimes the trades just don't work your way.
Look, I'm like the guy from Blue Mountain State. I just make dreams come true. And
one year it'll be your year.
But more importantly, we're also joined by this year's People's Champion, the Chargers. Now,
thank you.
For those of you who don't follow my logic, and that's probably 31 of you, here's what I mean by People's Champion. A couple of years ago, when my team was still building its way up, if I had made the playoffs, I calculated, based off of who I would have played, I would have won the title. So I started calling myself People's Champion. Matt had his worst performance of the season in the second round of the playoffs. Had he won that, he scored more points and I think scored the most points in the playoffs and would be champion. So because of that, I'm electing him People's Champion. We had the Ravens as the Cinderella sweetheart, tear in his eye, third place finisher, and congratulations to him. Great run by the Bills coming out of the AFC East, which was definitely the most entertaining division of the year, to finish second behind Brett and make the finals. But again, really, really fun playoffs, really surprising playoffs, and I think overall a pretty great season, despite the fact that COVID really sucked.
Fun is a strong word.
Really great
but it happened.
season. God, COVID was a fucking nightmare. So many injuries. That I don't know. This past season felt like a slog to me.
This past season made fantasy football very much unfun to me.
I agree. Having won, I still did not feel like it was very much fun until the point at which I actually managed to win. But up until that point, it felt awful.
Yeah. No, so I agree. I think on a whole, fantasy was tough, but considering the rules, considering the makeup of the league, and considering, I think how hard everyone who was in the playoffs or in the hunt down the stretch had to work to get there. Really, I enjoyed it. Again, I'm a bit of a masochist, but that's not new to anybody else. But yeah, so talking about the playoffs there, Brett, Matt, anything you guys want to add in terms of observations or thoughts of the postseason?
I mean, I would just like to point out that, Matt, you would have lost against any of the other AFC teams there. Didn't matter who you were playing.
That week sucked ass. Losing there just sucked because it was I was the worst team in the playoffs that week.
It sucks.
At least on our side of the bracket. And then the next 2 weeks, I scored the highest out of every team the next week and then the following week. So, People's Champ, I'll take it. It's the only thing keeping me alive in this league at the moment.
I mean, not your roster, which still looks pretty fucking good.
I mean, that helps, but also, this is the roster. This is the team for next year. We're running it back.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any other choice. We don't have any other picks to try and do anything with. But, again.
I do. Nobody would take my first-round pick. I still have that.
That's amazing.
Well, it'll just be a matter of time until someone gives you a top 10 pick for your tight end again.
True.
It's okay. They'll probably be on IR all year anyway.
Yeah, that's as soon as I saw him go back on COVID IR, I'm like, so you're telling me there's a chance? Nope. All right,
it's okay.
Transitioning into the off season here, so talking a little bit about that. Obviously we're in the freeze period right now, where the commissions are taking a look at the rules, taking a look at the contracts, and kind of making sure everything is copacetic on that end. And also open to rule suggestions in terms of things that can be done to make the league better. I know there's kind of an open discussion in chat the last couple of days and hopefully some good feedback from there. Brett, I think you had a couple of suggestions of potential rule changes outside of eliminating the Pro Bowl. Any you want to share with the listeners?
I don't know. I guess I didn't really have as much of a rule change as just I wish that cornerback worked better because it's not just this league that cornerback sucks in. It's every league where every single week you can find guys that are going to play, guys that are going to start, because there's just so many starting cornerbacks. I mean, you're talking at least 64, plus most teams have a slot on the field at all times. So you've got, just tons of guys week to week, and they suffer a ton of injuries. And I mean, I'm picking up guys in the playoffs that are scoring, 14, 15 points the week that you add them. So it just doesn't seem like there's much value in the good cornerbacks and much challenge in streaming guys. And I'm not sure how, especially in MFL with the parameters, they're looking at just for stat keeping, how you change them to make them more valuable. But it just feels like such a waste of a position.
I don't think they necessarily need to be made more valuable, because like if you look at the NFL, like there's some DBs that like you have the Jalen Ramseys, you have like your star-studded guys, right? But then there's a lot of teams that like they just funnel guys in due to injuries, and they still perform well enough. They're not Jalen Ramsey, they're not shutdown dudes, but like they go out there, they do their job, and they're more of a like byproduct of the defensive line, right? Like if you have a good D line, your corners look good. If you have a bad D line, your corners look like absolute dog shit. So like I don't think it's really a surmountable challenge, just because of the fact that like that's what DBs, like cornerbacks, are in the NFL. Like they're a dime a dozen guy. You have a couple that are worth $1 per se, but most of the time they're just plug and play dudes. And really the only thing stopping you from streaming them is the fact that each time you dump one, you're eating $225,000, and that stacks up over time. So
I'm falling out more on the Brett side here. As a real life fan of a team whose corner position has been ass the last couple of years, even though we've had a pretty solid defensive line, I would much enjoy a situation where we had a more legit set of people at corner. So that being said, if there was a way to try and incentivize or separate the good corners versus the bad corners, and put it in such a way that they actually were worth something, and frankly worth taking before the fourth round of a draft, where I think year over year you're seeing the top corner taken probably sometime in the third, maybe earlier if they've got a serious return role as well. But then it's you can't. So the problem is,
Right.
what you'd want to incentivize is shutting down other receivers. How many catches do you allow? How many yards do you allow? Passes defensed or interceptions or those kind of things, which we're scoring already, are important, but shutting down the other players' points. And frankly, I don't know if MFL tracks that. That doesn't seem like
I don't think it does.
stat. And if they can't track it, then we can't score it. So,
right. Well, and the benefit is actually in having bad corners that are still starting, because you want the guy that's going to get thrown at so he can get a chance to deflect a pass because he's getting thrown at 13 times in a game, or rack up some tackles because he's getting thrown at because his guy is always open. So, I mean, it's similar to, the linebacker has a similar issue, at times where, if a guy has a starting role and he's on the field, he has the chance to rack up tackles. But cornerback especially is a situation where the bad players that are still starting are scoring as well or better than the actual good corners. And I don't know that it's possible, given the way MFL does its stat keeping, that you can actually grade the top performers at the position and score them relative to their performance.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like in your ideal scoring world, the best way to like score corners would be like your target percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Like
or
if you have
against.
Yeah, if like you have a absolutely minuscule target percentage, like that is a shutdown corner that is just cutting off a part of the field. And if you're doing that, like that is the best thing you can get from a corner. But there's absolutely no way for us to score that, right? Because it's not like you could do it the like kicker route in like normal kicker leagues where they start off with X points, and then, or like a defense where it starts off with X points and then points allowed takes it down, or like that type of thing. But then you're right. Setting a weird benchmark for like this corner averages like X points, but really there's no other way to get that up. But if you've got another corner that's getting targeted all fucking day like Diggs, but he's picking off 2 interceptions, then he's better than a corner that is actively like the best corner in the NFL or whatever, right?
Trayvon Diggs has actually been a shit corner all year, and he's the cornerback too.
Yeah, he's feast and famine. He's either picking off passes or he's being the most targeted, and that's always been the thing with corners is you want targets. You don't want good. You just want the guy who's going to get
and being taken to a real life Pro Bowl, even though he's allowed more than 1,000 passing yards against him because he's actually covering very well.
But his kid's adorable.
This kid is adorable, but he's not even his kid's favorite player.
This is true. So again, I think some of the options there are possible. And my suggestion is kind of in that vein of what can we do to make the rosters more like real life. So one of the other leagues I've been in that's been full IDP and everything, experimented with the idea of having an offensive line position and a coach position, where the offensive line scored commensurate with how the offense was doing, lost points based off of sacks allowed, and then got points for obviously scoring points. So made sense for the offensive line. And I think that's something that's easily implementable here. And then from the other side, a coach, be able to assign different coaches. I think that's kind of a pick'em type thing and more of a, interesting twist and maybe not as popular as like an offensive line. But, I mean, having a guy like Belichick or a guy like Andy Reid or stuff like that could be another way to lock up some positions. And frankly, we probably have to increase the cap for adding either of those position groups past the 89%, figure out what that looks like.
If you're adding offensive linemen,
I mean, just go to 100.
It should go to 100. Although if you're adding a team offensive alignment,
Right.
That's different. And I mean, I like adding the team offensive lineman at least. I'm not sure how I feel about coaches, but in terms of when you add it, it doesn't really matter because almost everybody in the league already has their punter and kicker on a 1-year contract and is not spending an extra year. So we're repicking those guys every season anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter when you add the offensive line position if you wanted to do that.
I think another position that you could look at adding is, and this would kind of help with cornerbacks, is a specific slot cornerback. Because like my two best cornerbacks from this season in Darius Williams and Desmond King were both slot corners.
Kenny Moore.
Yep. And like that's the whole thing. They're like a weird pseudo hybrid between a cornerback and a linebacker. So they get all these tackles from just eating runs in the box because they're close enough. They're going to be getting some of those tackles while also getting the passes defended because a lot of quarterbacks will look to be hitting that like inside crossing guy when the play's blown up. So
I find it unlikely that we would be adding starting positions though.
Well, yeah, it'd be weird like transitioning cornerback to like slot corner and corner just because of the idea of.
And then are you removing a flex by doing that? In which case you're definitely only starting one safety. I think you then start to affect the positional values, and I'm not sure how everybody would feel. Hey, there he is.
There's RJ. Woo.
Can you hear me all right?
The winter
Yes,
beard's
sir.
coming in nicely.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now
Brett,
joining us, we've got
congratulations.
the current owner of the first
Thank
overall pick.
Yeah. For the time being, until I decide to trade.
I mean, he doesn't. You kind of got fucked by having this be the year that you want the first overall pick, and you don't need a quarterback. But who's going to want to trade up to the 101 to?
We'll figure that out. I'm sure I'll find somebody that wants him. We have plenty of time for Kenny Pickett hype.
Oh God.
I was going to say Sam Howell, but clearly that's not it either.
It's definitely not Sam Howell.
Just hold on until the day before. It's only going to keep going up.
That's the plan.
There's going to be I'm going to start putting gas mask videos out for each of these guys.
But in the meantime, I do have a Trey Lance that I can get rid of.
It's true.
Uh-oh. Nobody's going to want that. You probably should.
I'm looking at Matt right there in this, in this call.
Let's see your hands, Matt.
Can't check.
So what all have we talked about?
We're talking about cornerbacks right
congratulating
now.
our two-time champion.
It's
we congratulated
I'd
Brett.
like to thank everybody that made this possible. Mike, top of the list. We're talking about cornerback. We're talking about Matt was suggesting whether we could add like a slot corner specific starting position. Trying to figure out how to make that position actually function.
Yeah,
Mike
it'd
was
be
suggesting
tough.
adding offensive line as a team position.
That would be interesting. So that would be based on sacks allowed, I guess.
Rushing yards, yeah.
Yeah, so I posted the scoring options from a league that had done that. It wasn't a contract league. It was it was just a straight IDP / GM's type clone without the contracts.
You look very tall, RJ.
But that said, again, it's how well the offense does, taking points away for sacks, stuff like that. So
I definitely think that'd be interesting. I don't know how well it would do slotting into the league in a year when we're not going to have a reasonable bump in salary cap.
But you're also looking at a position that you're gonna pay like like you pay your punter and kicker because everybody gets one.
We say that now, but at the same time, like there are teams that are going to be drastically worse at those positions than others, from my guess here.
Right.
Not similar.
Would look like.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as similar to like team punter and kicker because like the difference between okay, never mind. Jacksonville's kickers actually just fucking god awful.
Well, and if you do the scoring so that the top end of the range lines up with the top end of place kickers or top end of punters, I mean that's still not very many points that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I could get behind that.
And, and maybe you do the salary cap then at a soft 90% instead of the 89%. I don't know.
Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. So for offensive line, let me share my screen. Share screen. Share.
The other question would be, do you keep it at 40-person rosters, in which case you're losing a roster spot that you would otherwise be using elsewhere?
All right. So what you would do is kind of similar to a team defense. For the number of sacks, you get or lose points for that. You lose points for sack yardage. You get points for, accumulation of passing and rushing yards. Get points for touchdowns, lose points for quarterback hits, and then fourth down efficiency.
So in this scoring, how much did the top offensive lines have in this league?
So let me go back to that here.
Doxing your email, I love it. Everybody hit him up with that bullshit email.
I already checked his tabs. Don't worry.
Let's see. So player stats. Oh no, this was Lewis's league. Never mind. This was.
How many leagues?
Good God.
Fair amount. Yeah.
My Christ.
Yeah. This was this one down here.
This right here, this is addiction. Yes.
Yeah, that's a bit excessive.
And he sends just as many trades in all of those leagues.
No, I don't.
No. Show us the list of players with that position.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
We don't want this.
So let's see.
Go back to reports.
Reports, players,
top performers. There you go.
Players, offense. No.
There you go. Holy fuck.
Yeah, so that's way too many points. I think you need to cut those point totals in half, and then that gets you because our top
punters and kickers are scoring like 12 points a game.
They're so not even. Like
you've got a 3x.
The best is Patriots at 10.6, 170 total points.
Punters was like 11.7 or some shit like that. So,
I'm looking at it now.
So cut that shit in half.
Yeah. Punters, 180 points. 180
lower that
points,
variance.
So I mean, I think if you cut it in half and you get the scoring in line with where our kickers and punters are.
Yep. No, that's fair. But again, that's what that scoring would look like, I think. and I suggested this to the commissions, that you'd have to clone our league, put that in, and see what our scoring would look like there and how that would impact stuff. Because to your guys' point, that becomes a premium position now. It's not like punter, where it's a dime a dozen or a 50-point difference between number 1 and number 32. It's a 200-point difference between 1 and 32, which is enough to spend money on. And again, to the point of, it's a year where there's not going to be a big increase in the cap. A easy way to try and address that would be adding offensive line and bumping salaries up to 100% of what the NFL is. That gives teams the salary bump that they'd be looking for, but you'd still have to bring on the offensive line. Again,
I don't think you can justify upping it to the full amount, given that a team is paying with that 11%. They're paying 9 or 10 offensive, or I guess 8 or 9 offensive linemen, and we're paying one team position where everybody is guaranteed to get one. So I could see saying, like, okay, we're going to go from 89 to 90%, which is still adding, 1.5 million, which I think would be in the range of what people are going to actually pay. Because the only people that are going to bother paying anything for these really top offensive lines anyway are teams that are expecting to be competitive. RJ, how much are you spending for your offensive line?
I'm using minimum contract, and then I am using whatever extra bonus money for some other bad decisions.
Right. So
pretty much.
Right, but it is one of those things that it becomes an asset and something that is worth holding on to. Like, again, it's RJ probably, because he's not looking for points right now, would be fine going to min value, like taking Jacksonville's offensive line piece. But at the same time, Kansas City's offensive line becomes very intriguing and a heck of a
do they get no rushing yards? That's actually shitty offensive line, isn't it?
You get passing yard points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but not as many.
So again, we would need to look at the scoring. We'd have to play with it a little bit to see what it would look like. So it is an option. It is something that is potentially worth pursuing, and maybe the commissioners will take a look at it.
Generally, I love it.
But again, it's something that needs to be tweaked, and it has a path to being used. I think I'm in complete agreement with you guys. I'd love to see something that makes the good corners worth more than the bad corners. But
it's tough. I just don't feel like that function. I guess we should just tweet at MFL and hope they do something. At the moment, I just don't. Yeah, because that's not going to do anything either. But I just, as much as I hate the position, I don't really see a way within MFL to have it reflect.
Yeah, MFL would have to take 2 of their 7 employees to completely redo that, and it push league start times out another 4 months.
Yeah, I mean,
live to dream.
I've started treating tweeting MFL as the same as tweeting players at this point. Just don't do it.
I don't know. I feel like tweeting at players probably has a higher response rate. If you actually tweet some good shit at them, you get the right player.
Player's going to respond.
All right, RJ, any rule changes or suggestions that have crossed your mind, or? Well, considering he's on mute, I'm guessing it's going to be a big fat no.
I think he's distracted by the wifey.
We talked about Pro Bowl in the pre-air show, and I guess I would not mark myself as an opponent of the Pro Bowl. And I understand the reason the Pro Bowl is there, to try and get salaries more accurate, to try and prevent people from having really artificially low salaries. We had way too much money in free agency, which and too few players making it to free agency. So I get the motivation behind it. I think that it's going to be I think it's going to cause some problems, especially when you see top performing rookies that end up needing to get paid on a renegotiation that is going to cost them, money that is, partnered to the overinflated contracts that we have as a result of free agency. So it's only going to help to kind of reinforce some of those absurdly high dollar amounts. And I think that, I don't know, I guess I would have liked to see an expansion of holdout rules, or of players saying, no, I'm not going to sign this contract for $800,000. Did you see how many points I scored last year? This is insulting.
Right. Again, so a change to the extension that instead of just being able to extend at whatever value it is, it doesn't work for a top 25 player. A top 25 player or top whatever at that position gets the higher, basically the Pro Bowl outcome. It's the higher of the renegotiation or the extension or something like that. I don't know. There's a potential way to do it. I think we're going to see what happens. We're going to see if anyone does extend a Pro Bowl player here and what the impact is to the league. I mean, hell, Josh Allen, as predicted, is now going to be a $37 million quarterback where he was currently a $3 million quarterback. So we're going to see what happens here.
Yeah.
PSA.
And I also,
PSA.
go look at your Pro Bowl players.
Do not post an extension in the forums without making 100% sure you know how much that extension is going to cost. Ask Mike, ask me. If you're really ask the commissions, because once you post, it's done. And you really don't want to find out after the fact that, oh shit, that player was in the Pro Bowl and this extension is actually $10 million more and I just effed myself.
Yep. I'm not a fan of, and this is obviously very personal to me, I'm not the fan of players that played half of the season being Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Like
I brought this up too. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one scenario where I feel like total points makes way more sense than points per game.
I agree. For Pro Bowl, I think that makes more sense.
100% agree.
No, it would suck if it was a case of like you've got I don't even know how many Pro Bowl running backs make it. Let's just for fact of my argument, 3 in each conference. All right, so let's say
Derrick
for example,
Henry is still probably a Pro Bowler, right?
He is points per game, but not total points.
That was a Derrick Henry's amazing joke.
Yeah, but so like perfect example. Let's say the top 6 running backs are split 3 and 3 between each conference in the actual total points scored. So like that kind of sucks for the James Conner owner, or it's really good for the James Conner owner because he ended up being running back 7 almost strictly due to the fact that he didn't play 2 games to end the season, while Zeke did, and Zeke overtook him for spot 6. So that sucks for the Zeke owner, but it's great for the James Conner owner. But the other side of the coin is like Derrick Henry is way down at running back 15 for total points scored. He's a Pro Bowler because he was number 1 in average points per game.
Well, and that was Derrick Henry a Pro Bowler in real life?
No, I don't think so.
And that's the point that I made to Jeremy in the chat is that players that spend the second half of the year injured don't get voted to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
and that is not a situation that is reflected here, where it could be if you were looking at total points.
Like Derrick Henry was heavily in the MVP conversation before he got hurt, and now it's just dust in the wind.
And if he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been in the Pro Bowl.
Oh yeah, no, he would have been in the Pro Bowl. Shit, he could have ended up in the Super Bowl if he was still chugging off 200 yards a game, and Titans would lose like twice.
I mean, he might still be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he could, but
he's coming back. And anyway.
So again, something I was toying with, and I think we were saying was potentially overpowered, but maybe a way to kind of approach this to help is we do it the way we've got it laid out, but injured players can't go to the Pro Bowl.
What defines injured?
IR.
For
that'd be tough just because COVID IR, you get the little 3-week IR periods.
Have to be on IR or
season-ending IR, right?
Season-ending IR.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that.
Per what week? Because your team's not a playoff team. You suffer an ankle injury week 15. Again,
that's so that player will not if. So Joe Mixon, for example, is an AFC Pro Bowler this year. He, I think, is sitting this next week, as are a bunch of Bengals because they don't want to get hurt. If he, say, played and went out for the season, he wouldn't go to the Pro Bowl. He'd still be a Pro Bowler, but they'd replace him on the roster. So it would be that if you were – and since our Pro Bowl takes place in, I think, the last week of the season, if you are on IR, out for the season, the week the Pro Bowl is played, you get replaced. So
yeah, but you're still technically a Pro Bowler.
I mean, right. I think that I guess that's a separation for me between like the spirit of what the rule is trying to do, which is to make us pay the best players contracts that reflect their actual value.
It's really to make you
And
pay
this
for
is-
all of your players.
Yeah.
He's gonna
But-
do that anyways. They're all coming off their rookie contracts.
We're just
But
trying to
this
give
is
them credit and
it's
also
okay.
do
You
this
know what?
appreciation.
They did their job. We used those cheap deals. We won a couple Super Bowls. We'll figure it out.
I'm gonna puke.
Yeah.
This is all according to plan. But
All
the
according to-
question is, when you're looking at whether you're looking at the average number of points or the total number of points, what is more reflective of how valuable that player was that year for that team? And I would argue it's the total number of points.
Matt, don't puke on the pod.
I wouldn't do that. That you YouTube striked.
Matt, at least you didn't have to be the one to lose to me this year.
I wouldn't have.
Fuck everybody. I went 17. I went 17-0. We're undefeated in 2 leagues, and I lost both in the fucking playoffs.
Does it make you feel better or worse to know that I felt like our game was the Super Bowl? That was the Super Bowl to me. I didn't even I'm happy to have won last week, but I was good after making it through the championship game. Bills would have won. I would have been thrilled for him.
I wouldn't have. I wanted to win, but anyways.
Yeah, I'm still ass burned.
All right, so those are some good suggestions in terms of potential rule changes here. Again, a suggestion I made to the commissioners that I think would be a great thing to do is if you can set up a clone league or clone the GM's league and give those of us who are commissioners elsewhere, who have been commissioners, commission access just to try some of these things out. What would a scoring have to look like for an offensive line to make it work? What are some of the options we can look at for corners to try and line that up? Again, I was trying to go hunting for what are the different MFL stat options and created a fake league, but the free league doesn't give me all the stat options. So, again, we don't want to mess with the league format as it is. Absolutely not. Nothing to screw with what's in there. We're just looking for ways to make it better, and it might be helpful to kind of sandbox a couple of ideas in a clone league for a couple of at least a couple of weeks here, if nothing else during the downtime between now and when everything opens up for fun next week. But
Fun's a strong word.
hey, you know what? It's going to be wild and crazy, guys. I can't wait. I love this offseason. You all talked about the insane addiction that that I have for leagues in here. But I'm drastically scaling back. So as you saw a couple years ago, I was in over 20. After I leave the ones that I'm in this year, I'm going to be under 10. So I'm trying to pull it back to the leagues that really matter and the places I want to spend my time. And that's
So that means even more trade offers next year, everybody.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we'll see. Again, I think if I had won the league this year, I think I'd be approaching the offseason a little bit differently. But I think because I did not, I need to think about some of the moves I was thinking about making or how I want to kind of do things here. Because my goal has always been to self-fund the leagues I'm in at this point. So I'm either in them for fun or I'm in them because I think I can continue to fund my fantasy football addiction.
Don't go too crazy. You were favorited. You had a bad week. Your team is disgustingly good and will be disgustingly good next year. You went 17-0 for a reason. You just like Matt, you had one bad week. And that's half the battle is just you make the playoffs. And after that you roll a dice and see what happens because it's random.
Yeah. I'm blowing it all up. It's all good.
Yeah, there's nothing you can say to Mike. Mike is going to do Mike things.
I recognize it's really easy to say that from my position of having been a lucky son of a bitch and winning. It's like, it's just luck. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah, do it this way. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
I'm attempting to compliment you and attempting to be like this much modest. This much.
I mean that's a hell of a movement. That's a hell of an effort. So I applaud the effort, if nothing else.
God damn it, Ravens. You could have avoided all of this if you just fucking took one for the league.
What can you do?
Honestly.
Look,
Anybody that if you'd won, how is that the lesser of two evils? I don't see that as the lesser of
Because
two
I'd
evils.
still be in post euphoria brain drool zone.
hey, if Matt had beaten Ravens, I would have cashed. So, I'm in favor of the alternate reality here.
I get yeah.
You would have
'cause you
cashed in the third place, yeah.
Yeah, so I still would have lost to Brett. I would have been playing Bills in the third place. And
Is
I
it
would've-
Mike? Is it really about the $75? I'll send you $75. I don't give a shit.
I mean, if you're offering, I doubt he'll say no.
I'll take your money, but no, you don't have to. But no, again,
It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
Uh,
God, good quote, but still. Anyways, so yeah, off season's gonna get going here, and it's gonna be good times.
It's not about the money. Bills and I split. I mean, not the back-to-back pot, but
Trades are 2022.
Trades are 2022.
Trades are 2022.
Yeah, so that's kind of all I had to talk about. But we hadn't been on in a couple of weeks, so it made sense to hop on and talk playoffs, talk off season. Next week, after the Monday night game, the league will open for business once again.
you want to recap the things that people need to do before February? What is it? February 15th?
No, we'll have a podcast between now and then to
That's true.
make sure people do their dues.
I think we'll do that as some off-season stuff, especially next week. But yeah, be aware of what's going on. For those who kind of checked out because they weren't in the playoffs, now's a good time to re-engage, check the rules one more time, and make sure that you know what's going on and when, and again, enjoy. But
we'll wait and see how many new owners we have for us to take advantage of. I mean, for Mike to for us to send really reasonable trade offers to.
That happened with Javi or Javi.
Yeah, he shopped around really well. I'm still surprised he ended up with Judon on his roster, but overall, and he got screwed with.
That wasn't for a lack of trying, son.
No. I mean, yeah,
I know.
Shit happens.
Anyways, well, thank you all for joining. Once again, Brett, congratulations on the win. Matt,
Thank you.
Next year is going to be our year. I'll see you in the finals next year, my friend. And for those
keep
who,
saying that.
Thank you for listening. And I'll tell you what, be well, and we'll see you next week.